The firstborn carries unique responsibilities, spiritual significance, and leadership potential within the family structure. However, many firstborns face psychological, spiritual, and societal challenges that can limit their destiny. The need for intentional parenting, discipline, dedication to God, wise choices, and spiritual awareness, and also warns against complacency, poor decisions, and generational carelessness is needed. Limitations can be broken when individuals understand their identity, maximize their potentials, and align themselves with purpose and godly principles. Welcome to another powerful episode from the book, The Victory Mindset, by Dr. Charles Apoki. To get your copy of the book, please check the links in the description. You can also get both hard and soft copies from Amazon. This message will challenge parents, firstborns, families, and anyone who desires to break generational limitations and fulfill destiny. As you listen, reflect deeply on the lessons shared here. In many circumstances, it has been found that many firstborns have a mentality that is detrimental to their position. Instead of being the head, a lot of them function like the tail. In this chapter, we shall look at the deposits, potentials, and positioning of the firstborn. In Exodus chapter 13, verse 13, the Bible says, "Redeem with a lamb every firstborn donkey, but if you do not redeem it, break its neck. Redeem every firstborn among your sons." The Lord also said to Moses in Numbers chapter 3, verses 11 to 13, "I have taken the Levites from among the Israelites in place of the first male offspring of every Israelite woman. The Levites are mine, for all the firstborn are mine. When I struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, I set apart for myself every firstborn in Israel, whether human or animal. They are to be mine. I am the Lord." Also in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 28, the Bible says, "By faith he kept the Passover and the application of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel." The firstborn is meant to excel based on the following attributes. 1. Property of God. The firstborn is the property of God. He is supposed to be consecrated unto God. However, since the firstborn is born of an unclean man, he needs to be redeemed. In those days, if the firstborn was to be dedicated to God, just like Jesus in the temple, an animal was sacrificed in his place. The devil is an evil mimic of God. It realized that if the firstborn is killed or destroyed, the opponent is rendered weak. In Egypt, when the firstborn was killed, the power of Egypt was destroyed over the children of Israel, and the children of Israel were set free. The devil, therefore, deliberately sets out to attack the firstborn. Each firstborn has to be deliberately protected and prepared with a mindset that he or she is not a victim, but a victor. The mindset of defense has to be placed in him or her very early in life. The firstborn of Israel was preserved by God. Therefore, he is to serve him. Even though the Levites were substituted in place of the firstborn, every firstborn is the right of God to use for his own good. They were to be consecrated to God as his own. Whenever the firstborn deviates from the duty of serving God, even when born again, his potentials are stunted. By this, I do not mean they must become full-time ministers. They are, however, supposed to carry the consciousness that they are properties of God. The devil usually sets out very early to dissuade, disturb, and distract them. There are many firstborns, particularly sons born into good Christian homes, who have been rendered useless by the devil. In Genesis chapter 49, verses 3 to 4, the Bible says, "Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength, excelling in honor, excelling in power. Turbulent as the waters, you will no longer excel, for you went up onto your father's bed, onto my couch, and defiled it. 2. Potentials. The firstborn, according to Jacob, was the excellency of the father's strength, the improvement of his ability, and the embodiment of his hope and future. Therefore, if the devil can distract, divert, demoralize, delay, deform, and destroy the firstborn, it can hinder the whole lineage. Reuben was a typical example. He ended up being less than his position. In fact, no great man, prophet, warrior, or king came out of the tribe of Reuben, and they became few until Moses reversed the situation. 3. Property, prosperity, and posterity. The firstborn would inherit twice that of any other child. Sometimes he is the administrator of the estate of the family. So, if the devil can hinder him, then it can reduce the whole family. The firstborn, therefore, should very early be taught the principles of management, discipline, and excellence in life. There are many families that were heroes who went to ground zero because of the managerial incompetence of the firstborn. The firstborn holds the key to the past and the future. Esau had the inheritance of Abraham behind him and the nation of Israel in front of him, but he threw it away for a pot of porridge. By that singular act, he deprived the whole of his lineage of the benefit due to the descendants of Abraham. Reuben had a similar opportunity, but for a fling with his father's wife, he threw away the whole inheritance of Abraham and the future of his family in history. The firstborn, therefore, is a soft target for the devil to developmentally hinder a family. Most parents are not aware of this scheme of the devil, and the firstborn is left vulnerable. 4. Psychological challenges. The firstborn has no models to copy because he is the first child. The distance between him and his parents is so much that he cannot copy them within the first few years of life when the psychological makeup of an individual is formed. Most of them live with adults in their houses, and there are no children to stimulate them. A lot of them have no challenges, unlike the last child who has to brace up to survive the push, pull, and sibling rivalry of the older ones. So most times, the eldest child does not walk on time and usually has to be begged to eat. This creates the problem of having little drive and no push to do things that his mates would naturally do. Many of them live without being under pressure. The firstborn, by the time he comes to a position of understanding, is usually made to realize that he would inherit the assets of his father. This causes many of them, from very early, to fix their eyes on the past, which is their father's wealth and possessions. They want to inherit yesterday instead of sowing the seeds of tomorrow. The following characteristics, as a result of some of the aforementioned issues, become their lifestyles. They can be restless and indecisive. They can be reckless and have no value for things, like Esau. The devil usually makes them make wrong choices. Biblical examples include Esau's choice of marriage, Reuben's choice of sleeping with his father's wife, and Adonijah's choice of demanding David's last wife. Any man who is prone to making wrong choices is prone to self-retardation and destruction. Many of them are very sluggish and have complacent mentalities. They always need someone to lean on. They can talk and not act. They can dream and never wake up to pursue their destinies. They know how to talk big and do little. They often abandon projects halfway. They are wasteful and many times untidy. They have an attitude of staying in one job for too long. By the time they realize it, they have wasted so much time doing one thing without progressing. The devil has a way of positioning bad wives and husbands in wait for them. The wives that Reuben married caused great pain to his parents, When he went to marry again, he married far worse ones. For females, the devil can arrange bad husbands that would render them useless. One of the things that makes this possible is that people eventually learn from the mistakes of the firstborn, but he has no person to learn from. A lot of them are subject to prenatal and postnatal attacks. Usually the devil plans ahead and sets out to attack even children in the womb. In addition to this, there might be inexperience on the part of the parents. So you see some firstborns born mentally challenged, some with paralysis, and others with deformities. Usually, by the time the firstborn is born, the parents are not emotionally mature and may not know how to manage the child properly. He becomes an experiment for trial and error and multiple suggestions. The parents might also not yet be financially stable and may not afford the best health care. I know one that has cerebral palsy because he fell from a delivery bed from the hands of an inexperienced midwife. Many first children might be born in health facilities. The parents would not want to patronize later in life when they are more financially buoyant and exposed. The nutrition of the first child might not be as good as it should be because the parents might just be overcoming financial pressure. Even the kind of accommodation the first child would live in with his parents might not be the best because of their financial status. Occasionally, the parents might still be schooling, and so the child is sent to the grandparents. They might need to work, and so babysitters take care of them, and bad attitudes are transferred to them by these people. However, this progression must be stopped. Parents must learn that the dedication ceremony of a firstborn is a unique spiritual ritual. The child must be consecrated to God and redeemed with a price. The child must be prophesied upon by a spiritually sound person. On the 8th day, when it was time to circumcise the child, he was named Jesus, the name the angel had given him before he was conceived. In Luke chapter 2, verses 21 to 24, the Bible says, "When the time came for the purification rites required by the law of Moses, Joseph and Mary took him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord, as it is written in the law of the Lord. Every firstborn male is to be consecrated to the Lord and to offer a sacrifice in keeping with what is said in the law of the Lord, a pair of doves or 2 young pigeons." The dedication of Jesus in the temple was not a hurried affair. It was elaborately done. It was in a prophetic environment. His future was spoken into existence. One problem with polygamy is that a man who has several wives will have several first fruits of the wombs of his wives. Assuming he has 5 wives, each child that opens the womb of each wife is a firstborn. And if he or she is not consecrated unto the Lord, those children have a strong likelihood of becoming targets of the devil. So, the devil can have 5 entrances into the household of that polygamist. That is why you will see that when a rich polygamist dies, his wealth eventually disappears with time in several cases. If there are firstborns who were not dedicated, the parents must make deliberate efforts to rededicate that child, or the child must personally dedicate himself or herself to God and his service. Every firstborn must pray against distraction, disturbance, and satanic ambush before marriage and in business. They must place a demand on God to give them their rightful position in life and help them maintain it. They must pray to be decisive, pray for drive, pray to be daring, and pray to attract favor. This chapter teaches that the firstborn carries unique responsibilities, spiritual significance, and leadership potential within the family structure. However, many firstborns face psychological, spiritual, and societal challenges that can limit their destiny. The message emphasizes the need for intentional parenting, discipline, dedication to God, wise choices, and spiritual awareness. It also warns against complacency, poor decisions, and generational carelessness. Above all, it reminds us that limitations can be broken when individuals understand their identity, maximize their potentials, and align themselves with purpose and godly principles. Thank you for listening to this powerful episode from The Victory Mindset. If this message blessed you, inspired you, or challenged your thinking, make sure you get a copy of the complete book using the links in the description below. You can also get both hard and soft copies on Amazon. Share this video with your friends, family, and loved ones. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more transformational episodes. God bless you.